Switch gears a little bit and let's talk about something that was very important to Ernest Becker, and that is, why is it that sometimes we become attracted to certain kinds of political leaders that we might not be overly enthusiastic about at other historical moments? Who's ever heard of the dead German sociologist Max Weber? Has anybody ever heard of Weber? My Weber joke is that if you need a non-pharmacological intervention for insomnia, a paragraph or two of Weber will do the trick. But I don't think that in any way undermines the importance of his ideas. And one of the things that Weber wrote about in the early part of the 20th century is the idea that in times of historical upheaval, people become particularly attracted to what he called a charismatic leader. Who's heard the term charismatic leader? Well, that comes from Max Weber, and he defined the charismatic leader as someone who is perceived by his or her followers as kind of a magical, larger-than-life figure who often proclaims, or whose supporters proclaim, that he or she has been chosen by God to rid the world of evil. This is often advanced as an explanation for how Hitler got in power in Germany. Who's familiar with that idea that Hitler may not have gotten all that many votes if things were going well in Germany? I would submit he probably would not. Well, I wasn't around in those days, but I was around in the aftermath of the terrible events of September 11th, 2001. Who remembers that? I know a lot of you do, those of us that are old enough to remember. And who remembers President George W. Bush, who before September 11th, 2001, had one of the lowest approval ratings of every president in the history of Earth? Who also remembers, though, that 3 weeks after the events of September 11th, President Bush had one of the highest approval ratings. Head shakes if you remember this, because this was amongst Democrats as well as Republicans. And Tom and Jeff and I, we got interested in this, and we're like, wow, how could this happen? Maybe the president metamorphosized from a functionally illiterate oil industry neocon meat puppet into an effective civil servant, maybe. Maybe, on the other hand, the events of September 11th constituted kind of a natural reminder of death. And maybe Americans embraced the president because, just like Weber said, when the psychological shit hits the fan, it makes us grope for someone who says, I will rid the world of evil. And indeed, that's what President Bush did say right after September 11th. He said, we will get the evildoers. And in October of 2001, he said, I believe that God has chosen me to lead the country at this difficult time. All right, well, we did a bunch of experiments in 2003 and 2004. And what we did was very simple. We just had some people think about dying and other people not. And then we said, well, what do you think about President Bush and his policies in Iraq? And what we found was really quite, I think, staggering, because in about a dozen experiments, we found that Americans across the country did not have particularly high impressions of President Bush or his policies in Iraq under psychologically benign conditions. But when they were reminded of their mortality first, their approval of the president skyrocketed along with their support for his policies in Iraq. In fact, in one study conducted 5 weeks before the 2004 election, we found that Americans in a control condition said they would be voting for Senator Kerry by a 4-to-1 margin, but those who were randomly assigned to think about dying said they would be voting for President Bush by about a 3 3-to-1 margin. I would ask you to just think about the ominous implications of that finding for democracy. And just for those of you that are willing to recoil in horror along with me, we just finished our first study demonstrating that when Americans are reminded of their death a month ago, it increased in a pronounced fashion their support for Donald Trump's candidacy for president and their willingness to vote for him. And I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for. I don't think this is a politically partisan claim. I think anyone who's a fan of democracy should be very concerned by the fact that a relatively subtle alteration in psychological conditions can have such profound effects on political preferences.